Hello, and welcome everybody to another episode of Pod. I'm your host, Shwin and Stacy, episode 353. I'm joined, as always, on this Monday morning by my co-host, Stacy, that is at Stacy. Twitter. Stacy, how are you doing on this Monday?
Doing pretty well. I don't know if it was first non-victory Monday in a while, but
Yes. Well, I didn't have a team playing this yesterday, so that was great.
can't lose on a bye week.
Yes, bye week is fantastic, much needed to reset. I don't know, my batteries, I guess. I don't really know. All right, but before we get started, I do have to make a few announcements. The first being that the Strickland has an Instagram. Check that out. That is at the Strickland on Instagram, posting all kinds of new content on there. Strickland also has a YouTube channel where you may watch the podcast if you are and you've not done so already. Please hit like, leave us a comment, and then subscribe to the channel. That would be a huge help to us. The Strickland also has merchandise that is available on our website, which you can find at www.thestrick.land. There's a link that'll take you to the merchandise store, and you can find all kinds of cool stuff on there. T-shirts, sweatshirts, hats, coffee mugs, water bottles, you name it, we've got it. Again, you can find that on our website. And then finally, the Strickland has a Patreon, which you can subscribe to. There are a number of different tiers. There's a $6 tier that gets you access to Pod Strickland's podcast that I host every Friday with Prez. You also get access to our newest podcast, Takes from Obvious Bozos, that is hosted by Andrew Steele, a.k.a. Doug, along with Zach Blatter. You also get access to the Strickland Discord, where the conversation never stops. There are further tiers. There's a $9 tier that gets you access to Strickland Roll, my solo pod where I rant and rave about the Knicks and more. You also get access to wonderful premium articles by Matthew Miranda, one of the best in the business. And now you also get access to Strictly NFL, our newest podcast that is about, yes, you guessed it, the NFL, that is hosted by Konstantin Metrikos and Jeffrey Rasmussen. There are further tiers. There's a $15 tier, $30 tier, $50 tier, and a $100 tier. There's going to be a variety of additional benefits. So listening on power recordings, merchandise discounts, and even potentially co-hosting a podcast alongside yours truly one day, whether you choose to subscribe or not. And this would be possible without you. And none of this would be possible without BetOnline. The holiday season is off and rolling with the NFL in full stride, and the NBA and NHL hitting midseason form. BetOnline is your number one destination for all your sports wagering info. With up-to-the-minute sports wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions, BetOnline is the top spot for everything pro and amateur sports. And not just the big four. BetOnline has info available at your fingertips with both desktop and mobile access at any time for almost any sport that is played, from MMA to international soccer. Head to the BetOnline app today and remember, use our promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts. The Knicks are 12-7. They won a back-to-back when we last saw them Thursday, defeating a moribund Pistons team in annoying fashion, but they did finally take care of business.
Nice little SAT word there.
Thank you. I've been studying. And then Friday, they traveled to Toronto and handled the Fighting Messiahs in honestly pretty dominating fashion. The final score was 119-106, but the Knicks completely ran away with this game in the second half, in particular the end of the third quarter when Josh Hart checked in to the start of the fourth. They just completely destroyed them. I don't know. The Knicks are 12-7. They are, they're 11th in offensive rating, they're 4th in defensive rating, they're 6th in net rating. They are 7th in 3-point percentage, they're 8th in 3-point attempt rate. Like every metric, I think they're number 1 in defensive rebound percentage by quite a margin. They're number 2 in offensive rebound percentage. Basically, every metric is saying this team is a contender. And yet, there seems to be trepidation over a variety of things that I see very many Knicks fans debating over on Twitter, on X. Let's just, where are you at with this team? Do you buy that they are, the metrics are screaming this is like a top 6, 7, 8 team in the league, or are you kind of like, maybe they're good, but there's something that's missing? I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I've been an optimist for a while. 6, 7, 8, definitely. I think the only trepidation I would have is what happens in the playoffs. Is this team built to win the playoffs? But that was a pretty big win against Toronto. Like, this is, they're not the best team in the league, but it was on the kind of team that can give the Knicks problems. I think you mentioned in the Strickland, right? Hurdle has given Mitchell Robinson a lot of problems in the past, and I thought Mitchell Robinson played pretty well. Stats don't nearly show it. But this is a team that they can nullify some of the advantages that the Knicks typically have on the offensive glass relative to other teams, right? And they did a good job rebounding the ball. But the Knicks now have other options. The Knicks have a bona fide superstar in Jalen Brunson, who is shooting the leather off the ball right now. That's another thing. We've complained about some of the Josh Hart minutes. I thought he was great against Toronto in minutes. But I think Thibs has done a really good job. I do want to throw this, started to play pretty well statistically at least. The defense is going to be the defense. Are you coming around on Randle? Or, is it kind of a wait and see thing? Or do you think, maybe the numbers are misleading and he hasn't really been improving his play?
I don't care about the Phoenix thing. If people want to defend that performance and call it good, like they're just telling on themselves. And honestly, it's ridiculous to call that good considering his play in the 2 games since then. But in the 2 games since then, I think he's been I think he's been excellent. I think he's been really, really good. I thought the Toronto game is up there with some of his better, most complete regular season games as a Knick.
Nearly had a triple-double.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even give a shit about the numbers, but like, I thought the rebounds he got were real rebounds. They were contested rebounds. He was not just gobbling up ones that Mitch was kind of letting him have. I thought his defense was legitimate. Yeah, I thought his defense on Siakam was legitimately good. I thought he completely just dominated that matchup. I know Siakam ended up having I think he actually had more points than Julius, but it didn't matter. I thought Randle completely outplayed him. And then, the defense and everyone is great, but the offensive decision making in that game is probably the best you've seen of him in a long time. And I mean, look, the Detroit game was a little weird because he was pretty dominant inside, but he also was he had 3 air balls in the first half, which was bizarre. But his second half in that game was really, really good. He was pretty dominant, and I wouldn't say that was a great performance, but I do think it was a very good one. And it was a necessary one because for whatever reason, nobody really other than Brunson had it going against the worst team in the league right now. And they needed Julius to have it, and he did. He delivered. So, look, I think there are a lot of people that were like, oh, what's wrong with this team? It feels like every time they have a bad performance, win or lose at the end of the day, there's a lot of what's wrong? What's wrong with this team? And look, there's 82 games. You're not going to be a robot and play awesome every single time. So, we've been on the short end of that stick multiple times. We've been in the Pistons position, right? Where you're like, oh my God, we're going to do it. We're going to beat this team. And then the fact of the matter is they have 2 players that are better than everybody else in your team. And that's really all they need. And that's really all they need. And it's that simple. Yes, there are going to be games where Quickly can't make a shot and RJ looks like he can't move and DiVincenzo's cold and Hart is doing whatever. And it doesn't matter. That's why you have stars. Stars bail you out of those situations. That's what you get them for. And they bailed us out. And then Toronto, that Toronto game.
Do we have 2 stars?
I think you have to qualify them as 2 stars, yes. And that Toronto game was probably, look, Brunson, I thought really did a great job setting the tone, especially at the start of the second half. The way he started that third quarter basically made the difference in the game, you could argue. And then Julius, we just mentioned, he was really, really great throughout the game. But I thought everybody contributed. I thought Josh Hart obviously has 15 straight points in the third quarter at one point. I think he finished with 17, 7, and whatever it was. But he had a really good game. DiVincenzo, he had 7 threes, 7 of 9 from 3 in that game. I thought Quickly, I thought he came in and kind of played within what was going on. Didn't try to do too much. And if you look at the numbers, 10 points, one rebound, 1 assist or something, you'll probably be whatever. But I thought he played a really solid game. RJ Barrett, not his best performance, and we'll talk a little bit about some of his recent struggles. But I think if that's the worst version of RJ Barrett you're going to get, you're probably pretty satisfied with what he does by the end of the year. And then, like Mitchell Robinson, Isaiah Hartenstein, really good play again from them. So you're just getting it was such a solid all around performance. You will notice that I did leave out Quentin Grimes, who I continue to be very, very disappointed in so far this season. Although in the third quarter he exploded for 4 points. So, maybe that'll be maybe that's him turning the corner. But the point is that was just a complete win, and it still feels like there is more. Like they can get more out of this team. I still don't think they're quite humming in every kind of lineup and rotation that's out there. But you're starting to see them kind of develop different combinations and different options, and that'll be really, really important as the season goes on. But I think, I'm satisfied with this team. But to answer your question about Randle, I do think he is kind of figuring it out or turning it on right now. And I don't want to say turning it on because I do think there's separate issues, like the stuff about his decision making and effort. Those are unrelated to anything, in my opinion. I know there are people that'll be like, well, how you feel physically can impact stuff like that. And I hear that, but I'm sorry, I have a tough time accepting it. I think it's if you're out there, I need you to do some bare minimum level stuff, and he just was not doing that for the vast majority of the season. These last 2 games, though, he's been great. And if we go back to last season, I think we would probably say that somewhere around this time, his offensive efficiency was way better at the same point last season. But I think if you were to go back to the same point last year, I think everybody would, or most people would at least be like, yes, his kind of focus and his impact and all that stuff really started to take off around this time. So maybe he's just a slow starter these last couple of years. I don't know. But, considering that he's played, he's got a 50 true shooting right now, 50.8 or something. Considering that, and then you look at, they are, again, 11th in offensive rating, 6th in that, and blah, blah, blah. You've got to feel pretty good about where this team is. And honestly, I think they have a chance to be, I don't know. I mean, look, they're sitting there in 4th in the East right now. There's no reason why they can't maintain that or even push higher.
Yeah, I mean, I've been saying this for a while. I don't expect the record to be that much. I think they'll be flirting a few games up above 500 for the bulk of the first part of the season. I think. I think you won't really see them get too much separation based on the schedule until this. But the second half of the season, it really opens up the schedule, and I could really see them going on a run. I think you've talked about how Thibodeau teams tend to do that as well. Notwithstanding that second year, when they did pretty much the opposite during the home stretch. This is Thibs teams. That first year they went on a 9-game winning streak to really lock up the 4th seed. Last year they came on strong at the end. Part of that was the Hart acquisition. I think that this is a team that can really go on a run in the second half of the season. I think it's easy to say. I think right now Obi's playing really well in Indiana, and I think anyone who wants to celebrate his success, I won't hold anything against them. I really like his playing, but you'd have to say that at least from what this team needs, it's tough to say that the DiVincenzo acquisition hasn't been a smashing success. If you look at the standings, they're 4th. They're tied with Philadelphia. Philly has hit a little bit of a snag after just coming out bonkers. I still think that's a great team. Let me ask you this, though. If you look at the teams around them, Cleveland and Miami are probably going to be there. Cleveland has not gotten off to the hottest start. But really the team that surprised everyone, maybe a year or so after, people really high on them, is this Orlando Magic team. Are you buying them, or do you think they fade at some point?
I don't totally buy them. They got their ass kicked on Saturday night by the Nets, but I don't totally buy them. I think they're good. They're definitely good. They're definitely better than I expected them to be this season because I just did not like their offseason. I thought they didn't add enough shooting. Blah, whatever. It doesn't really matter. But I do think Franz is better. I do think Paolo is better. They're
Suggs
weirdly
really turned into a different side.
Yes, Suggs has been good, and they still are like right now. They're starting Goga at center because Wendell Carter Jr. is out, so like that's a position where you'd expect them to get a little bit of a bump, because Wendell Carter is obviously he's just a better player than Goga. So like I don't know if I would say I'm selling them, but like I don't totally buy everything there. Like I think they finish probably around I think they end up fighting for like last the last automatic playoff berths in the East rather than pushing at the top.
Oh,
Sorry, say it again.
no, yeah, the 6th seed, you mean, right? They're
Yeah,
gonna
like
fight for the 6th.
the last automatic playoff spots, 5, 6, whatever. But like, Milwaukee. I mean, I'm not very impressed by what I've seen of them, and I know they're 14-6, but they've got like a pretty middling net rating. They are kind of getting by on the fact that Giannis and Dame are awesome. And that can win you a lot of games, like I mentioned before. That's why you have stars. But like their defense is not good, and it feels like every game they play is, it requires heroics at the end of it to kind of pull away. They did blow a game to Chicago on Thursday in overtime, nonetheless, and they didn't have the great Zach LaVine, who is a massive game changer, and the Knicks need to trade for. So that's like either way, like all kind of joking aside, that's a pretty bad loss for a team like the Bucks. And I don't know. I think the Knicks could pass them. I think there's a chance they fall back, and then the Sixers are really good. I don't really know what to make of them in the sense of like they're better than I think I and many others thought they'd be given the whole Harden situation. But I also think they are like, Maxi's playing out of his mind. Is he going to do that for the whole season? Is that something to bank on? And if he's not, where do they go for shot creation aside from Embiid? I know their bench it's better now with, after the Harden trade, but they just don't have a lot of scoring pop off of it. So, like, I know Oubre coming back will help them, maybe. Like, I mean, look, he was playing out of his fucking mind to start the season. Is that something you can bank on, or was that like, more of a flash in the pan? And we'll find out. But like, I think when you look at this team, by the way, the Pacers also just fucking smoked the Heat on Thursday without the greatest point guard of all time, Tyrese Halliburton. So apparently, maybe they actually have good players aside from him. We don't need to pretend that he's carrying some dog shit roster every time he's on the floor. But like, I think the Knicks have the best depth. Like they're really solid, 1-9, and sorry, I guess maybe 1-8 right now until Quentin Grimes joins the party. But like, they're, and I still don't think they're getting the best out of everybody yet. I think Josh Hart's turned the corner for sure, and we'll definitely talk a little bit more about that. But like, I don't know that it's not even just getting the best out of individual players. Like I don't think all the groups yet are kind of clicking. The starters have been. I know the numbers look good on the season, but I think of late anybody with a brain would be like, yeah, something, and that something might just be Quentin Grimes, but like something has not been quite right with that group. I think the bench has a little bit of an issue of finding the balance of yes, letting guys kind of play free and handle the ball, but like there are moments where I think they don't know, or there's a little bit, too much leeway given all around, and they don't really have the proper hierarchy set up in terms of ball handling and initiation. But like obviously they've been a strong positive over the year too. And then you have like the mix and match groups in between, and basically every combination of those where Jalen Brunson exists is some form of positive. So like there's still stuff they're figuring out also. And there's still, I think they can get more from like, I know DiVincenzo, it's kind of crazy to say this, but like, I think they can get more from him. Like he's just kind of starting to more consistently find his 3-point shot, right? I think Isaiah Hartenstein has had a little blip over the last 8, 9, 10 games. I think he'll be better as the season goes on. And he's still been fine. He's not been bad, but I think he'll be better as the season goes on. Julius Randle absolutely will be better. I think RJ Barrett, who we'll talk about, like, he's had another terrible November, which maybe is just like a thing for him now. But I think you can expect him to at least play better than he has since he returned from his migraine absence. And offensively, I think defensively for the most part he's been pretty solid. But like Jalen Brunson, I know this is also insane to say considering he's on a heater from 3, but I think you can expect him to shoot better inside the arc. Like who knows what that looks like if he can maintain, super Cyan, awesome, fucking amazing 3-point shooting. I don't see the issue. I think there's a chance that like there's actually a higher level for him to reach as a player and a scorer and all that stuff. I do really like how he's playmaked over the last couple games too. I think has really stepped up in terms of his kind of distribution and letting other guys get into a rhythm as well. So like, I just think there's, I don't know,
The
obviously
2-point
Quentin
percentage is creeping up too as well.
Yeah, and then obviously Quentin Grimes is, he can't play worse. I'll say that much. He's the one player on the team that has a negative on-court rating. He got the worst on-off on the team. He's just not in a good spot right now. He's not in a good place, and he needs to figure it out. But like, considering like the start that Julius got off to, and quite frankly, the start that Brunson got off to offensively, considering that I don't think DiVincenzo kind of hit the ground running, to your point, although he does have a 58.6 true shooting now. After all has been said and done, and Josh Hart, not a great start, right? Like considering all these things, I think the Knicks are. I mean, I think they could be the 2 seed. Like, I don't really think that's that outrageous. I don't think they'll catch Boston because I do think Boston's just really strong. Even without KP, they've been pretty solid. So, like, I think you have to assume that barring any catastrophic injury to Jason Tatum, that they'll be right around there at the top of the conference. But yeah, aside from that, I don't know. I don't think the Knicks should be scared of any other teams. And we'll see. Like, does the lack of size hurt them in certain matchups? Like, against the Sixers or the Bucks or the Magic, I think that's yet to be determined. But as of today, the Knicks are 10-4 in the conference. They're 6-3 at home. They're 6-4 away. The best thing I think you can say about this team is they're pretty consistent home or away, which can be frustrating when they're at home, but is also very nice when they're away from home. So yeah,
And that's
I
been
don't
a
know.
Thibs thing for a while, right?
Yeah.
So,
but yeah, so I think this team is pretty well positioned. Is kind of where I'm at with it.
Yeah, I think it's tough to argue with any of that. I think DiVincenzo, to your point, like, and they have a consistent shooter. They have relied a lot in the past on young guys to be their shooters, right? And young guys, a guy like Quickly is a shooter. He's still probably higher variance than a guy like DiVincenzo is. DiVincenzo's a guy what you're gonna get every night. He fits into any lineup. I think it's been a really good acquisition, and
43.4 3-point percentage for him now on the season, by the way.
Yeah, and that doesn't feel unsustainable. Brunson will probably come back down a little bit to earth. 47%, you would say, unless you're Steve Novak or Steph Curry, you're not going to probably shoot that for the whole season. But Brunson is shooting as well.
Or if you're Tyrese Halliburton, right?
Yeah. It's tough to it's tough to find much wrong with this team. If they do get the 2 seed, I think 2 through 4 seems pretty much in reach. That's kind of the expectation. You said, Brunson, you have a closer, you have Randle, guys who can carry you on nights when your other guys are not really cooking. Let me ask you this. There's been a lot of trade talk there about the Bulls selling. I can see that I don't know what to call it, your caption or whatever, has a thought on this trade. But a lot of people have proposed the Knicks going after a guy like DeRozan. I've seen Grimes being thrown in there. What would you like to tell Knicks fans about potentially adding a guy like DeMar DeRozan? Does that move the needle in the playoffs by giving the Knicks another, strong isolation scorer? What would you like to say to Knicks Nation about trading for DeMar DeRozan?
No, just no. Like, no. What is the point of trading for DeMar DeRozan? He's a terrible playoff player. Like, if the entire point is, we need to do something to raise our playoff ceiling, how the fuck is DeMar DeRozan the answer to that, given his track record?
Given how Grimes has been playing,
who
don't
cares?
you think he would be an upgrade there?
No, because T will need the ball, and then that means you're giving the ball less to Julius, and you're giving the ball less to Brunson, and you're giving the ball less to RJ. And like, yeah, I know there are people be like, well, is that a bad thing? Like, should RJ be taking as many shots as he should? I don't know, but I'd much rather fucking watch RJ Barrett try to figure it out at age 23 and go through whatever he needs to go through in this time than acquire 34-year-old DeMar DeRozan and start donating shots to him so that he can climb up the all-time scoring chart or something. Like, it's just this is
and he operates from the same area as Julius, right? Like that fit seems awful.
He's also just had one of his look. I'm not going to say he's totally washed up, but like he's dropped off this season in terms of his overall shot making and percentages from the field. He's never been a good
passer, I think, right now.
Yeah, he's a good passer, but he's also the type of passer that requires him to like slow the game down, and everybody has to stand still and watch him, and then he'll, methodically decide what he wants to do. There's a reason why the Bulls have been garbage in assist rate every single year or like literally they've sucked basically at passing since Lonzo got hurt. So I think that says plenty about like how good of a passer is he, like I'm not saying he's incapable, but I don't think he's you can't be like, well, he has 6 assists a game. Great. Like this does not mean the ball is going to start zipping around the floor and like all of a sudden we're going to be, the fucking Warriors out here. Like it's just not going to happen. And he's also
I think that's where kind of the assist numbers, right? There's a difference between like guy who can make plays, who can get you assists, versus a guy who engenders ball movement, right? Like you look at Steph Curry or Tony Parker, their assist numbers have never been through the roof, but they knew how to engender that ball movement, right? So if that's what you're looking for, it's different from a guy like a guy like Westbrook who averaged 10 assists. His assist numbers have generally blown Steph out of the water, but it's not like, it doesn't create that kind of a system if that's what you're looking for, right? So
yeah. And again, he's just been a terrible defender his entire career. He can't defend the point of attack, which would mean RJ Barrett has to defend the point of attack now in that starting lineup. And then I don't know, he's not really somebody you want defending the point of attack. And then what, DeMar DeRozan is going to be checking like second options or wings. I don't know. It just doesn't really make any sense to me to go be like, oh, well, the answer to this problem is DeMar DeRozan. Like he is not the fucking answer to any problem. Aside from, do we want to tank? That might be a problem that he is an answer for. But like, yeah, I've never understood the obsession with DeMar DeRozan. I will never understand it. And Scott Perry was talking about today, from whatever the fucking, I don't know what he was on, a podcast or TV or whatever, talking about like DeMar DeRozan. If you could get him, and it might be a little clunky, but like that'd be a high level problem to have. Like, buddy, thank you for your service, but very, very happy that you're no longer in the Knicks brain trust, because Jesus fucking Christ, where do you think those rumors have been coming the last few years about interest in DeMar DeRozan? So yeah, I definitely not. I'm not a DeRozan guy. We did mention RJ Barrett. I wanted to bring this up because look, he started off the season, I mean, like a fucking house on fire. He's cooking the first 7 games of the season. He played, by the way, I just want to be very clear, because he missed 2 games in between. But the 7 games he played to start the season, averaged 22.6 points, 3.4 assists, 3.1 rebound, 3.1 assists, 3.4 rebounds, 48.7% from the field, 50% from 3, and 84.8% from the line. That was good for, wait for it. That was good for a 62 true shooting, 57.5 effective field goal percentage. He had the strongest net rating on the team. He still has the strongest net rating on the team. But because of the numbers I will now read off, that has come down a bit closer to earth. But in the 7 games since his return, 14.6 points, 3.9 rebounds, 2.3 assists, 34.4% from the field, 25% from 3. And if you look at his advanced numbers in that time, this is so disgusting. 46 true shooting, 38.5 effective field goal percentage on 28 usage. Just not efficient, not good. His usage has actually gone up since he's come back slightly. What do you make of this? Because obviously we know that RJ Barrett has been a very up and down player in terms of his offensive output anyway throughout his career. His numbers, his percentages, both from the field, from three, from finishing at the rim, whatever, they can go up and down. Are you worried? Do you think this is like probably not that big of a deal and he'll be fine? Um, what do you think about what we've seen from RJ? Because right now RJ's basically had like two separate seasons, right? Like he's had like an awesome 7-game stretch and then a really bad 7-game stretch. What do you make of that? And are you worried at all kind of about him in the present or in the long term?
Yeah, I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm worried about him. I think that after the beginning of the season, it was he was surging. Julius was really struggling. The question was, should this guy be the second option? I mean, with Brunson struggling and kind of the playmaking issues that Brunson had, and really hard to pass out of his drives, which he was displaying, you almost wonder, should he be running a lot more of the offense? And then the shooting has come back down to earth. I didn't think we expected him to shoot 44% for the season. I think it tempers for me. I temper a little bit, kind of just how enthusiastic I was starting to feel at the beginning of the season. But I think the fact that he's capable of that gives you a lot of confidence for the playoffs. The fact that he did that in the playoffs gives you a lot of confidence. And I think to your point, the defense has still been pretty good. And that's really the concern. It's like, look, we know that he's a young player. He's 23 years old. There's going to be ups and downs. I do think, from the beginning of the season, he's not seeing the floor quite as well. So that was one of the main. But before we came into the season, the things we talked about was league average 3-point shooting, consistent effort on defense, and passing out of drives. Right. I think he showed all three of those at an extremely high level at the beginning of the season. I think the defense has been consistent no matter what. That's really good to see. The 3-point shooting has regressed. We'll see what happens. I also think he's being a little bit more aggressive with his 3-point shooting. So I'm a little bit okay with some of these stretches where he's not shooting as well because he's pretty confident and he's being treated like a shooter. And it's really just comes down to getting back to that consistent. The shots will start to fall. It's getting back to that consistency, passing out of drives. But I wouldn't say I'm concerned. I think for what the Knicks need him to be, look, he needs to be better than he's been the last few games. He needs to hit shots. Ultimately, it's a make or miss game. But in terms of the process, I'm not super concerned about RJ. I think he's fine as the third option, especially with Julius starting to come back to form. I think he's fine. I think it's also worth noting that this starting lineup, you mentioned that they haven't felt as great, at least compared to last year. But I think their net ratings,
even to start the season.
Yeah, their net rating is still about +4, +5 in about 200 minutes. So, we should put this in perspective. They were a really great starting lineup last year. They've still been pretty solid, even with Grimes struggling, even with, the fact that Julius, RJ, and Brunson haven't really all been clicking at the same time. It's not like they have great, they're defending really well, 106. So the net rating is +5.24 for that starting lineup. So it's that that puts it in perspective. And so I'm not too worried about RJ. That's kind of long and short of it. I think as long as he continues to defend, gets back to making some of those passes he's making out of drives, I think the shots will fall. Is he going to be a 40% 3-point shooter? Probably not. Do I see him finishing the season 35 or 36%? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure how I feel about what I'm seeing from him. The defense has been fine. It's been pretty solid throughout the year, and honestly, he's had some stretches where he's been great, even in this little run. I know that Booker kind of gamed him, but I thought he played really well on Booker down the stretch of that game. I thought he was really good against Miami defensively down the stretch of that game. Last couple of games did not really like his defense against Detroit. I honestly flat out thought it was bad against Detroit defensively. And he gave up a couple blow-bys that you're just like, well, how are you getting blown by here? He gave up a straight blow-by to Killian Hayes to his left. And it's like, dude, Killian is only ever going to go left. That's just, yeah, you can't you can't get blown by there. If he bodies you or something, which I don't think Killian Hayes can body RJ Barrett, but like if he does, fine. But like you got to make him earn it a little bit more than you did there. And then the game against Toronto, like I don't know, he's just there's just like you're just standing, and there's so many places where you just see him standing and not going after a rebound. And I just don't understand the rebounding thing with him. Like this is actually concerning to me. It's probably the one thing about a season that is genuinely like concerning to me, and not even just like because like with some of the shooting and the finishing at the rim and whatever, like I'm willing to just take like a let's just see where it shakes out at the end of the year approach. But the rebounding is just like, dude, like you're fucking 6'6", you're fucking strong as hell. Like you need to go get a fucking rebound sometimes. Like go get it. Just go up there and fucking battle for it. And too many times you just see him flat-footed and he's just kind of staring at it, and it's like kind of he's there, his hands are up, but he's not really fighting for the ball. And like I don't know, like I wish he would do it more, because one, I think when he does get those rebounds, it gives him a really great opportunity to go out in transition with the ball and like get ahead of steam going to the basket. And I think he could really use that, especially right now in this little slump that he's having. But like just, obviously just in general, forgetting that piece of it, just for the purposes of winning basketball games, it'd be huge. And I do believe this, okay? This is actually like something I do think, that starting lineup has not been as effective in this recent stretch. That's not all down to RJ Barrett struggling, by the way. Obviously, Quentin Grimes has been a big problem as well, and whatever. We don't need to get into like the whole dynamic of it. RJ Barrett's not been rebounding well. Quentin Grimes has not been rebounding at all. I think teams are starting to target them on the glass, and I think you've seen that especially in the last 3 games. You go back to that Phoenix game. Phoenix killed us on the glass in that game. And yes, we can sit there and be like, oh, well, the bigs got to get it. Like, look, Mitch and Hartenstein can't fucking just do everything. All right. Like, you've got to have guys.
Especially when they're relied on to contest, right? We
Right.
rely on, they have huge responsibilities on this team, the rim protection. So,
yeah. And like, look, some of the like, guys have to go get fucking rebounds. And, like, I think there's a reason why that bench group, Hartenstein is not the rebounder that Mitch is. He's not nearly as good as boxing out and whatever. His hands, God knows that his ability to corral a contested rebound is always a fucking adventure. But like Josh Hart is crashing the glass. DiVincenzo is crashing the glass. Even I think Quickly's done a good job crashing the glass generally this year. There's more going on there. And then like, look, when you look at this, look, I think one of the best, I think it might be the second best net rating lineup in the league by per cleaning the glass. But like that group of Brunson, Quickly, Hart, Randle, Mitch, like they're doing a great job. Obviously, they're off, like they've just been great on both ends of the floor. But I do think part of that is they're ending possessions, right? The biggest part of defense is ending possessions. It's why Nikola Jokic might be the worst defender you've ever seen in your life. But guess what? He gets a shit ton of defensive rebounds, and that matters because that is the biggest key to improving your defense is finishing possessions. And that is a reason why I do believe the Knicks have improved defensively. Not the sole reason, but a reason they've improved defensively as a unit this year. So, like, I think, again, going back to this RJ piece of it, like, I just need to see more from him on the glass. As far as his finishing at the rim, like, I don't know. I don't think he's got the same pop he did to start the year. It feels like he's also forcing shots that he wasn't forcing to start the year, which is really just annoying and disappointing because you're just like, come on, like, at some point, you got to get this shit out of your game. And I do mean shit. Like some of these shots he's taking are just shit. Like they're the shots that nuke his efficiency at the end of the year, right? These are the stretches and these are the plays that people who are skeptical of him or flat out just don't think he's very good. These are the stretches that give them fodder for that belief. And they're the stretches that kind of hurt his impact. Like when you look at his impact metrics, like these are the stretches that hurt his impact metrics because everybody has bad shooting stretches. You don't compound them by also taking bad shots. And like he has had too many drives of late where you're like, what was the plan here? Like, what was where were you going with this? And I don't think that was the case to start the year. And then, like in terms of his just like how he's moving, like I don't think he's moving as well. I mean, he had that dunk against Toronto where like that he missed in transition. And I'm like, he's like not quite getting off the ground that well. Like, I don't know. It just feels like he's again now playing very much like a ground bound style. Not that he's ever been something, not even to start this year.
But at
That
the
he's
beginning
been
of the year, he had that one yam in traffic, right, where he went up with 1 foot. Prez has talked about that a lot, right? Can he get off on 1 foot and finish? So he was definitely a lot more assertive, and he looked to have that pop that you're talking about early in the season. And I mean, the migraine shouldn't affect his well-being physically, but I don't know, maybe he's going through something.
Who knows? I have no idea, but like I do think that again, these are the stretches where like people that are critical of him and skeptical of him and all that stuff, like these are the stretches that give them kind of that fuel, right? Um, I think he said something the other day or yesterday. I want to say it was Zach Braziller of the New York Post had it, but like basically the migraines aren't
The Post.
necessarily like, the New York Post. Not that the migraines are like currently affecting him on the court, but that like there's some lingering effects from it. He did go on to say that like look, I need to be better, and I will be better, and blah blah blah. He said all those right things, but like, look, the minutes here are competitive. He didn't close this last game against Toronto, which is not a big deal, by the way. He didn't close against Detroit either. Neither did Quick. Like I don't think we need to have a argument about minutes every fucking game. I think it's kind of reductive and pointless. Like, I get it. I get why people are upset about various guys' minutes, but like, I just don't find it very useful because I do think that like a big portion of this team's success should come from mixing and matching and stuff like that. And look, if you want to say, well, he doesn't have the same standard for everybody, correct. Like Thibs does not have the same standard for everybody. I don't know that I need to like I don't know that we need to debate this. We know this. We know that this is how it works for all coaches. Like we saw Steve Kerr last week fucking bench Moses Moody in a game that he was the only guy that had anything going in the fourth quarter because he had to get his guys back in there. He had to get Clay and get Wiggins back in there. Obviously, I'm not suggesting that that RJ or Quickly or anybody on this team has achieved necessarily what a Klay Thompson has in his career, but at this point in their careers, I would say most of those dudes are better than Clay. And like the fact is, my point being is like, it's kind of crazy to suggest a coach should treat everybody the same all the time. Do I think there are things Thibs could do better? Yeah, for sure. And we've talked about that before, Quickly getting more minutes, whatever. Like, it's just not that we know what it is. Like, these are established things. But like, yeah, like RJ has definitely struggled, but like Quentin Grimes, like I don't even know what to say about this guy right now. I really don't, because he's not giving you shit. Like RJ is struggling to like finish plays and make the right decisions and whatever, but like he is doing shit out there. This is what Quentin Grimes is doing right now. Okay, he's played 17 games this year. He's averaging 23 minutes, 6.2 points, 1.3 rebounds, 1.2 assists, 36%, 36.3% from the field, 34.9% from three. He did make his first 2 free throws of the season against the Raptors, so kudos to him. I mean, none of these numbers are great, right? Like his 50.8 true shooting. His usage is a career low now, 12. And then, look, the on court, he's minus 2.8 on. His on off, he's minus 14.9. Like, so they're just getting fucking like trounced in his minutes compared to the rest of the team. And I don't know, like he's also just playing super passively, and it just doesn't feel like he's getting into any rhythm with these lineups with that lineup. I do think like you're getting close to a time where you might need to consider playing DiVincenzo over him. And look, to start the year, I thought there's no question that Grimes deserved to start the year based on kind of everything that happened last season. But we've had 19 games. We're going to have 20 tomorrow against Milwaukee in the in-season tournament quarterfinals. I don't know how much longer you can kind of just like, oh, he'll turn it around. Because right now he's just not. He's not even close. He's not even like, he doesn't even look like he wants, or he's confident to be out there.
Do you think moving him to the bench could hurt his confidence even more?
if that's going to hurt his confidence even more, then maybe he's not. I mean, maybe we pegged him.
Doesn't have the makings of a varsity athlete.
Yeah, he might not have the makings of a varsity athlete. If benching him is going to totally ruin his already ruined confidence even more. Like, and this is partly on coaching too, but he's got to you can't. Okay, you don't want to come off the bench, play better. Like, I don't really know what else to say. Like, this is 19 games in. This is not some bullshit sample. Like, one more game here, 20 games in. Like, it's basically a quarter of the season gone, and he's giving you nothing. Like, he's really giving you one good game against the Bucks, and that's it. I mean, look at it. You can look at his game logs. Like, if you look at his game log, it's not pretty. Okay, like his season high in terms of points for the season, 17. He scored double digits only 4 times. He scored 12 in the opener, or sorry, on the opener. He scored 12 in a game in Boston. He scored 11 in the opener, and he scored 11 against Atlanta, the game that he got hurt in. And I've seen people suggest, well, he got hurt. Like, maybe he's struggling coming back from that. Is it a wrist injury? It's fucking non-shooting hand. Give me a break, dude. The guy's not exactly putting the ball on the floor.
It's his guide hand.
It's his jerk off hand. But like, he scored single digits 13 out of 17 games. He's got 2 games he didn't even score. He's got 4 games where he only made 1 shot. This is bad. Like, this is just bad. I mean, these are the point totals just from highest to lowest. 17, 12, 11, 11, 8, 6, 6, 6, 5, 5, 5, 4, 3, 3, 3, 0, 0. Sounds like a fucking dialing an 800 number. This is nothing. Like, I hate to harp on this, but like, it's fucking wild. Like, he's literally giving you nothing right now.
I mean, do you need much scoring from that spot, though, given that you do have 3 pretty high usage guys in that lineup? And he gives you the spacing and the defense, right? Which is kind of what you...
Is he giving you the spacing? Because I would say right now he's not really.
I mean, defenses are closing out on him, at least, right?
Yeah, but he's not doing anything out of it. Like, if spacing has to come with, like, yes, he's spacing the floor, but is that space doing anything? Like, what is he genuinely creating for this team right now?
Well, there's more room for Brunson and, like, I mean, someone threw out a comparison to,
but they're better. They've had more success with literally every other guy that plays this spot, Quickly or DiVincenzo. So, like, I don't think he's giving you the spacing right now. Like, he's not doing anything with it. If I'm Julius Randle, I'm done kicking the ball out to this guy. I get why I've seen Julius Randle look him off like a bunch in recent games. And in the moment, I'm like, come on, Julius, make the pass. But I can understand why Julius might be like, fuck this guy. I'm not passing the ball. He's going to, he's
going to pump fake and then kill the momentum.
He did this against, was it against Detroit? I don't remember who it was. It might have been Detroit, or it doesn't matter. One of these recent games where it's like Julius sets him up for a corner 3. He pump fakes, dribbles in like 2 steps, and then he throws it back to Julius with like 6 seconds left on the clock. And it's like, all right, so I set you up for a super high value shot, a shot that's in your wheelhouse. It was also the left corner, which is like Grimes' hotspot. And you're not, and you don't just not take the shot. You then toss it back to me in a grenade situation. Like, that's bullshit, And we've seen this from him way too much. He's not even. There was a play against Toronto. He comes off that, dribble handoff that they do to initiate possessions with Julius. He takes a dribble without looking, without any feel, without seeing how they're defending him. He picks up his dribble. Brunson's trying to get the ball, but Schroeder's kind of cutting off that pass. He throws it across the court to Mitch. And I'm like, you have got to be fucking kidding me right now. Like, how do you have less confidence to put the ball on the floor than Mitchell Robinson? How is that possible? Like, you're a fucking 2-guard. I'm like, I don't need him to be, Kobe or something, but like, come on, man, you got to be able to do something off the dribble a little bit. And I do mean this. I know this comes across very facetiously. It kind of is. It's a little jokey joke, but like, it was nice to see him like put the ball on the floor twice against Toronto. And he got a layup, and he also had a nice little dump off pass to Mitch. But like that's kind of the point where it's like, okay, but why not do this more? And it's like, you could tell, like, when he did it, they were like, holy shit, like, I can't believe this guy just actually finally put the ball on the floor. They were so caught unawares. And then you compare that to like DiVincenzo, who is basically operating in a similar role both with the bench and with the starters. And all like why is his usage so much higher? Like, why is he able to get shots up? Why is he able to find a way to be involved offensively? And like, that is probably the most damning part to me of his season so far. There's always this idea of like, oh, well, you're playing 4 and 5 on offense with Mitch out there. Like, I don't really think that's true. It's definitely not true this season, considering how much attention teams have to give him to keep him off the offensive glass. But like, if you subscribe to that theory, you're basically playing 3 on 5 right now with Grimes out there because he's not giving you anything. He's not shooting the ball. He's not shooting the ball well when he does shoot it. He's not putting the ball on the floor. He is not passing well. He's not making good decisions. He's not even trying to get open off the ball half the time in a way
that's
that
the
makes
biggest
sense.
difference with DiVincenzo, right? DiVincenzo's moving a lot. You see a lot of that continuity, back and forth with quickly. You're just, like people have said, what you can expect, right? Grimes is told to stand in the corner, and you can put some of that on Thibs and Randle. But to your point, if you do like an A/B test versus DiVincenzo, it looks completely different. Or even Hart, right? Hart will cut. Hart will do other stuff. And there's no reason to believe that Grimes can't do some of these things. He's built pretty strong. Attack is willing to do that. That's what you're here to do. And he's just not doing any of that. And I don't know if Thibs needs to just, get in his ear. It's not something we've seen for, he's had a relatively quick trigger. I think going back to the playoffs is maybe it could be a relic of the playoffs, right? Because he's getting up 2 shots a game, really wasn't getting the ball much. It could be that he just kind of lost his way there. But this isn't, I think the one thing I would say is that we do have a large sample of Quentin Grimes not being this passive, right? We saw last year, he probably fell in love a little bit too much with that dump off to Mitch. This year, it's a different level of passiveness. And that's the one thing where I do have hope. It's like, this isn't the Quentin Grimes that we've seen for a couple of years. But yeah, to your point, like everyone else is with the program and he just isn't right now. And it's not like he has to do a whole lot, just cut, be willing to jack up a few threes. He worked out with JJ Redick. Some of it, like Redick took some bad shots in his career, that were good shots for him, that someone like Doc Rivers was going to tell him, you need to shoot that, because like that is part of our offense. It's not a high percentage shot. And it could be a mandate. I know that Prez has talked about this, where his theory is kind of that the Knicks are just never going to run a lot of off-ball motion or like movement shots because they're not particularly efficient for anyone whose name isn't Steph Curry. Even a guy like Redick, it wasn't the greatest shot in the world. But that's kind of the point. It's that it's not about what that shot's efficiency gives you. It's about what it can open up for the rest of the offense. And right now, like Grimes just isn't giving you that. But even if we're not talking about that, you just like, you get the ball, you got to shoot. That's your job. Maybe you'll go through a rough stretch. Maybe you'll miss a few shots, but that's okay. But to your point, right? Like Brunson and Randle and RJ have to be able to trust you. They have to be able to trust that they create an opportunity and you're going to pay it off. And if you miss, it's fine. But the process has to be there. And I think that's the most concerning thing, right? It's the process in terms of cutting, in terms of being that off-ball guy who can accentuate. Because we know that Grimes is never going to be a guy who gets to 25, 30 usage. You're not going to put the ball in his hands and ask to create. But it's just like when you are playing that, when you're playing the bass guitar, you got to still play the bass guitar. You got to keep the rhythm of the offense going. And he's just not doing that right now.
Yeah, look, somebody's got to be Ringo, right? But you got to be Ringo. Like, you got to be Ringo. You can't just like be out there not doing anything. So we'll see. I mean, look, I think they might. I think Thibs might rework the starting lineup before the next. Let's say maybe by the end of this week. But like, I don't think he wants to. Like, I think he would love if Grimes just got his shit together and that was that. But Grimes is kind of putting it into a position of jeopardy right now with how he's playing, and I can't blame Thibs if he makes a change. Like I think he'd have been justified doing it sooner. Actually, to be honest, I think he's giving Grimes a lot of opportunity here and Grimes just has not delivered at all. He hasn't played a second in the fourth quarter in the last 5 games or something. Like, he's just not in a good place right now, and Thibs is kind of recognizing it.
And if you were to make that change, you would go DiVincenzo, right? Not Quickly or Hart in Grimes' place.
Yeah, well, definitely not Hart. Please God, I don't want to do the Josh Hart, RJ Barrett thing again. That was fucking death.
Well, I mean, it works when they're at the 3 and the 4, right? But if they're playing next to Randle, that definitely doesn't seem to work.
That's like death by 10,000 paper cuts. But like, I would go DiVincenzo. I do think that I get that there'll be people that are like, oh, well, like if your point is we just need to give Quickly more minutes, and I don't care if this is like not the super most optimal kind of role that he would play in. Okay.
So you're saying you like him in his current role?
Yes. Correct. But yeah, I mean, what do you think? Do you think you would go DiVincenzo there?
I probably would, just because I do get the kind of the desire to keep Quickly with the bench. Although I think I'm less concerned than I have been in the past about. I think like the concern is always like Quickly is a guy you want the ball in his hands. He's a good off-ball player, but you want the ball in his hands. I would say that when I would say that some of the concerns about the ball movement in the starting lineup have actually decreased for me, because I've seen those guys do a better job of pushing the pace, moving the ball, playing, and I think that's why DiVincenzo would fit in. I think the argument for Quickly would be, you give him more minutes. And let's face it, if he's coming into a contract year, if you keep him happy, maybe it gets you a better chance of locking him up for a reasonable deal, right? As opposed to, it makes the numbers make more sense. Where instead of if you can't justify paying $25 million for a guy who plays 20 minutes a night, maybe if you're just starting shooting guard and your bench carrier, that maybe makes it a little bit easier. But I think if you're going strictly by fit, I get it with DiVincenzo. I think it would be either of those guys. I think it would be fine. I think you can definitely make it so that Quickly can come out, be the first sub out, and then come back with the bench and still retain that. Bring him out at the 6-minute mark. That's not necessarily how Thibs operates, but I think that's doable. So I think Quickly is the best player, and I think he's a better on-ball defender than DiVincenzo, which is, I think, the biggest concern about moving Grimes to the bench is, DiVincenzo's significantly smaller. He's a really good off-ball defender, but, as a point of attack guy, I think Quickly's better. So I think those are the things that Quickly brings. And, you're dealing with this potential contract issue, which Quickly hasn't made an issue yet. You're nipping that a little bit in the bud, though. So I think those are the arguments for Quickly, but I wouldn't be upset to see DiVincenzo in that spot either.
Yeah, I mean, if it was up to me, I'd start Quickly. But I think there's an argument, and I don't think it's a stupid argument. I think there's a legitimate argument for like, hey, it's actually better for him to come off the bench. He gets more usage. He gets more touches. Like, he's more involved offensively in that.
But you can still have that, right? That's kind of my point.
You can. You definitely can. I get why there's that argument. And, it is what it is. But, like, I think the main takeaway, though, is that, like, this is a thing that needs to be considered until Grimes gets his shit together. If Grimes gets his shit together, then we don't need to worry about it. Then we're good to go. That has not been the case. And I will say this, like, you mentioned Quickly has a contract here. Grimes up for an extension after the season. The Knicks have, they have a decision coming on Julius Randle. They have a decision coming on Jalen Brunson, which isn't going to be much of a decision. It's going to be like, okay, how much can we pay you? Here's that number, and that's that. In terms of extension, they have obviously a decision on Quickly. They have a decision, like they have a decision on Isaiah Hartenstein. Yeah, like they have a lot of contractual decisions coming up. I'm not saying that like they're out on Grimes. I don't think they are. I mean, nothing about what they've done with him indicates. If anything, I think they've been really, really they've shown a lot of faith in him. So I don't think this at all. But like I do think that if you continue to struggle, you have to wonder how that changes kind of like, what they view him as and what they want to do with him. Because like I imagine Quentin Grimes still has good trade value. Like I'm not saying he's going to get some star, like he's some fucking superstar, but like I think there are plenty of teams on the NBA that'd be like, no, like we've seen it. We've seen what he can do. Like we're comfortable with this. He's a good defender. The 3-point shot will come around. Like, I think he still has value. The Knicks are really good, as we talked about. I think you have to start considering, like, and this is a shifting scale, but like, how much are we willing to give up in terms of like long-term value to bump up our baseline and our ceiling right now? And I think in that capacity, if Grimes continues to struggle, he becomes an interesting trade chip.
It's for
For
DeMar
them.
DeRozan.
Yes, for DeMar DeRozan. But like, he becomes an interesting trade chip if they are looking to find something on the wing to give themselves a bit of an upgrade. So like, I think that part, I think, is definitely entering an interesting time here.
Yeah, I think that. I mean, it certainly seems like if they were to make a move, whether this summer or during the season, he would probably be the first guy. I think Quickly's too indispensable to what they're doing right now. DiVincenzo makes sense from a salary perspective, but he's giving them a lot. I don't know what the market is going to be for like Josh Hart. So you'd have to think Grimes is going to be that guy. I don't know what's out there, but you'd certainly imagine that he's going to be, one of the guys that they're going to see what the market is for. I think if you don't do that, you're not doing your job. We haven't talked about the in-season tournament much. The Knicks are playing the Milwaukee Bucks. First of all, like, I don't think we talked about this. Like, what are kind of there's been a lot of consternation for people, about the mid-season tournament and all of that. What are kind of your thoughts on it in general, and what are your expectations for the Knicks?
Beat the Bucks. I don't know. It's so weird to talk about this because, first of all, I don't even understand the fucking schedule. Like, we don't even know. Like, we'll find out, I guess, who they might play if they win tonight. I believe Porzingis is still out for this, so Indiana gets.
They're playing tomorrow night. The Pacers and Celtics are playing tonight.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Porzingis is out for this, so I guess we'll find out who the Knicks might play if they advance.
Well, so since the Celtics had a major injury, should they have been removed from the tournament? Because apparently you can't get into a playoff tournament if you have a major injury. So even if you're undefeated.
I was wondering when we were going to work that in here. So good job. Good job.
Who's the one seed in the playoff, by the way? I didn't check that out, but
I don't know. I have to check the iPhone recordings I'm getting from my assistants that I sent out to record various games. No, it's Michigan, and they're hopefully going to win it all. But like, yeah, I obviously I would want the Knicks to. I think they should win this game. Like it's a weird thing to be like, hey, you got to win this. But like, it's cool because there are stakes now, right? It's like a single elimination. So I think it'll be really cool to see the intensity of this game. And it'll be interesting to see how Thibs coaches it, by the way. I think that'll be pretty interesting. But like,
the point differential played way into his wheelhouse, by the way, because he's like, well, I would love to bench my starters up 30 points, but this point differential matters, so I got to leave him in there, right?
Yeah, I got Julius. We need him out there. It's just, I'm sorry, we got to do it. I'm pretty interested. Like, I think the Knicks should win this. I think they're a better team than Milwaukee right now. Like, obviously Milwaukee always has a chance of Giannis going off and Dame going off, and even Brook Lopez has been really, really good lately. I actually have has Middleton even been playing? Is he hurt right now? I have no clue. But like, either way, he has not been doing much. But those three have been really, really good. Yeah, it looks like his minutes are slowly ticking up here for Middleton. He had 25 minutes against the Hawks, 27 minutes against the Bulls, 23 minutes against the Heat. Still not playing all that well, but that being said, now that I said that, he'll probably have the game of his season against the Knicks on Tuesday. But like,
is
they have a shot
to use the W word for Middleton.
Maybe, I don't know. Look, it wouldn't be the most reactionary take I've ever seen. But like, the Knicks have better depth. They are a more cohesive group, even if they still have their own shit that they need to figure out. And I just think they're playing better right now. So I don't know if you say you expect them to win, but I do think that the Knicks, and I think us as fans, should go in there expecting like, hey, look, like, We have every chance to win this game. We should have beaten them earlier this season, right? Like we should have won that game in Milwaukee earlier this season. Giannis hit 3 threes, the most annoying fucking threes in the history of the world. The Knicks couldn't make a fucking shot in that game. Ironically, the only one who really could was like obviously Jalen Brunson, who was phenomenal, and Quentin Grimes, who had the game of the season. But like, yeah, like I think the Knicks should win this game, and I'm excited to watch it. I think they're going to be pretty jacked up for it.
And is it fair to say yeah, I mean, because there's been debate, is the in-season tournament gimmicky? Is it sounds like you think it's been a cool idea so far?
Yeah, I love it. I think it's a great idea, and I think the NBA needed it. There's always been like the idea of like, well, the NBA season doesn't really start until Christmas, right? Christmas is like the unofficial kind of like soft launch of the NBA into the before Christmas is only for the diehards. After that is when the casuals get into it. But like, I think this in-season tournament's kind of like picked it up. I mean, people have talked about it. That day, like that final day of group games, was actually pretty like crazy, right? Like people are like tracking all the fucking games around the league, and you had all these different scenarios that were popping up. Like I think it's been fun, and the players seem to be taking it seriously. Teams are taking it seriously. Coaches are like, it's a good thing. And I think like making games matter more is very important. Like I don't like the idea that like, I hate this idea of like, 82 games is too long, and it's such a slog. And it's like, dude, it's the fucking season. Like that's what it is. And if you don't want to play 82 games, fine. Do you want to take less money? No, you don't. Okay, great. So let's get on with this then. So I think it's been really good for that, like just to create buzz and interest at a time in the calendar when that's not quite there. And then, I think like it also is just cool to have like a single elimination format in the NBA. We've never seen it, right? We've never seen that. And I think people have always talked about this, right? Like how cool would it be if like the NBA had an NCAA tournament type of like, if they ever did that, right? In some capacity. And like now you're actually going to get 8 teams playing in this format. And honestly, these are not like, this is some of the best teams in the league, Boston, Milwaukee, New York, not the Pacers, but the Pacers aren't it. But you have the Lakers, the Kings. Who else is in the West? I don't remember. But like
Pelicans and Suns. It's Lakers Suns, right? So you got your Lakers Suns, which is star-studded matchup, right? And then Kings Pelicans, which is actually pretty interesting as well. That one's gonna be pretty fun, I think.
Is Lakers Suns tonight?
No, that's tomorrow. Kings Pelicans. So the lineup tonight is Pacers Celtics and Kings Pelicans, and then tomorrow night is Bucks Knicks and then Lakers Suns. So
they're saving the stars for tomorrow. I see. But
namely Jalen Brunson.
But yeah.
And apparently, starting small forward for the Lakers, Cam Reddish. So.
Cam Reddish thing. We can talk a little bit about that, but like, I think it's cool. Like we're gonna get to see these guys play single elimination game, and obviously we've seen plenty of elimination playoff games, but I do think single elimination brings in just an element that is unique. And totally different. As far as you just mentioned, Cam Reddish, there's Cam, who's, I don't know. I quite honestly, I don't watch the Lakers because I find them pretty boring. Like, I feel like, I don't know. I'm not
always past my bedtime anyway. So,
yeah, I mean, I just don't find them a very fun watch. And then I guess he's playing well. And then Obi has had some couple of nice games. I think he's been shooting the ball better over the last 9 or 10 games or something. But like
he's playing good defense. I forgot who it was, but they played him at the 3 a little bit, and he was his defense. I think effort was never an issue, right? And counterintuitive as it is, I think he might be a little bit better suited for perimeter defense, where he can kind of just go right. As drop is the kind of Achilles heel for him. But
he also can't get overpowered on the perimeter.
Yeah,
though he does when he plays the 4. But like. Look, I don't know who's playing defense in Indiana, considering some of the numbers I've seen from them. But it's like every game.
I forget who he matched. He matched up with a good player and like held him to 4 for 11 or something. And someone
was it Quentin Grimes?
Yeah, a very high usage player like Quentin Grimes. So
I don't give a shit how these guys are playing. Like, aside, like, okay, obviously, if Obi is like all of a sudden he's like a fucking star or something, then I'll be like, well, that sucks. But like, short of that, if these guys go on to have like solid careers in the NBA, good for them. I mean, genuinely mean that. Good for them. I don't care as far as it concerns the Knicks. Like, Obi had a year left on his contract. He was locked in. If he was here, he was locked in as a backup four. That was it. There was nothing else that was happening for him. He was never going to play the five. And guess what? I don't think Carlisle's played it much at the five either. So say what you want about Thibs. And I've been I was very critical of Thibs' usage of Obi and whatever, but like maybe he was right. He was definitely right about that, it looks like. Anyway, more importantly, I think like,
I will say this: the numbers that Toppin is shooting 87% at the rim. Sorry, he's shooting 87% at the rim. His efficiency is just comical right now. I mean, you have to give Calvert some of the credit for that, but 36% for three, as you said. But like that's kind of hilarious.
Is he like 70 something true shooting?
No, his true shooting is like it's 70% because he's again. Yeah. He's not going to shoot 87% of the rim for the season, but that's pretty hilarious.
Who knows? They have their floors. That floor is so spread. For them.
And he's shooting. 36%. If he does that from three, that's really good.
Yeah, so good for him. But like, it was not going to happen for him here. I don't think they gave away like a star. I think they gave away like a guy who's solid, and he very much fits what Indiana is doing. So it's a great landing spot for him. But like, teams have identities and players have to fit in within those identities and kind of adapt. Not every player is going to be a fit on every team, right? Like, I don't think, like people talk about this with regard to playing with LeBron, right? Like some guys can play with LeBron and some guys struggle, like, because especially if you're an off-ball shooter, like he has to trust you to knock down shots. And that's a lot of pressure, right? Because you're not getting the ball a lot. You're not handling the ball a shit ton. You're just being asked to like space the floor. And when I kick you the ball, like make a solid clip of those threes. And that's not an easy thing. Not everybody's made to do that. And like the Knicks obviously play a very half-court style of ball. They do not get up and down, right? They're not pushing tempo. They grind it out. The spacing is not necessarily always the primary concern of lineup construction. Physicality is, owning the glass is, winning the possession battle is, all those things are. And the role that the Knicks had Obi in very specifically required him to be a guy who was not involved much offensively, who did space the floor primarily, and stayed out of the way. And obviously that was not something that he enjoyed or was necessarily comfortable in. And, obviously I thought Indiana would be a good fit because I did think he'd just be more involved and they get up and down and blah, blah, blah. And it seems like it has been a much better fit for him than it was here. But like, my point is, I think once the Knicks had a really good season last year, they kind of figured it out, right? They figured out what we are as a team. What do we want to be? What are our strengths? What are our weaknesses? They figured out what kind of players they want and what kind of players fit. And DiVincenzo fits. DiVincenzo fits what this team is, how we play, the strengths he brings to the table, right? In terms of his defensive rebounding, in terms of his three-point shooting, in terms of some of the fact that like he can play bigger than his size, so it gives you some options with different lineups. Like he makes sense here. And as far as Cam Reddish is concerned, I'll just say this about Cam Reddish. Cam Reddish sucked in New York. He sucked in Atlanta, and he sucked in Portland. If he's having a good season right now in LA, good for him.
Because he's always really though. He's shooting 32% from three. Maybe it's been better since he's starting, but it's not like he's blowing. The numbers aren't like insane or something like that.
Yeah, and I don't know. I'm not watching Lakers games, so maybe he is playing better, and the numbers just haven't. They're not capturing the value he provides. But like, sometimes guys need wake up calls in their career to like get their shit together, and Cam Reddish has always had talent, right? Like we talked about it plenty on here. Like he's 6'9", he's a fluid athlete. He's got great physical tools in terms of his wingspan. Some of his touch around the rim is really nice. Some of his
one dribble pull up, nice. His two dribble pull up.
Who he is at the elbow. Yeah, all those things are great. But like, he didn't put any of that together in any meaningful way in his previous stops in the NBA. It wasn't just New York, right? It's not just Thibs. It wasn't just Thibs. It was Atlanta. It was in Portland. And it's not just, oh, well, he wasn't making shots. Like, he's making bad decisions offensively, trying to do too much. He clearly had a kind of inflated sense of self at times. And defensively, he was a disaster. When I have seen him this year, I will, to his credit, when
I
I
think
have
that's
seen
been the
him,
part where he's improved really is defense, and especially
Yeah.
for what they wanted. And you have to give the Lakers credit, by the way, for that. Rui Hachimura is not known as a lockdown guy. He looks pretty good defensively on the playoffs. They do a good job of developing those guys. The second swing guy. So that was a good fit for Cam in retrospect as well.
Yeah, so good for him. It's a good fit for him, and hopefully, like, it's better for his career. But he was never going to have that opportunity here, and I don't think the Knicks are missing out on like some amazing prospect. Like he wasn't going. You know what? What'll help you humble yourself and accept a role? Playing with LeBron James. Because guess what? You can't go in that locker room and think to yourself, "Man, I'm better than this fucking guy. Like, I got more game than him. I need the ball." You could probably delude yourself in the next locker room, like, "I need the ball more than Jalen Brunson. I need it more than Julius Randle." Like, why is Emmanuel quickly getting more touches than me? Like, you can do that, but doing that in the Lakers locker room is different. But like, I genuinely mean this. Like, I think I've talked about this previously. Guys have their own journeys in their career. Sometimes they need like to experience failure and like kind of stare at your NBA mortality, right? Like, oh, he had no offers. Like his market was the fucking league minimum. That's what he got. He's done. He's getting the fucking, or I'm pretty sure he's on the league minimum. And it's like that was his market after his fourth season in the NBA. This is a guy who's a top 10 pick. Who was what was he the second best prospect or second ranked prospect in his high school class? Like
Third.
he
RJ was 1, Zion was 2, but yeah.
Okay. So third, like this is a guy who had thought he was like about to, was on the path to stardom, and obviously he's taking a massive detour. Like sometimes that's what it takes. And like, I mean, I don't think he's going to become a star. I'm almost positive that won't happen. But can he become a solid NBA player? Sure. I don't think it was going to happen in New York, though. I think he needed to have these experiences in his career to turn it around potentially. And this is like, I mean, I talked about this when we traded for him. I talked about this actually before we traded for him. But like, that was my concern about trading for Cam. And I was like, are you developing him for yourself? Or is this a guy where the light bulb is going to turn on in like his mid-20s and he's not on your team anymore? A guy that's kind of similar, at least in terms of just that idea of a career arc, is Bobby Portis, right? So that was always my concern with him, and maybe that's how it plays out. But like, I don't begrudge them their success that they're experiencing, both those guys. Like, I'm happy for them, good for them. But I also do not need to hear from Knicks fans who want to cry about like, oh my god, I can't believe Obi's gone. Oh my god, I can't believe Reddish is gone. Like, they're gone, dude. It's over. The Knicks are really good still. Like, you are not going to hit 100%. It's not possible. You're not going to bat 1,000, right? Like, it's not possible to do that. Every fucking team in the NBA has hits and misses. They have guys they gave up on that go somewhere else and figure it out and play good ball. Like, this is every team in the NBA. This is not just New York. Okay, fucking the Nets.
This also isn't Rod Strickland, right? Shout out.
Yeah.
It's guys who play good. I think with Cam, the thing is that is the kind of thing that you'd like the Knicks to have, is that 6'8" wing, right? To throw at someone like a Jimmy Butler or defensively. But the Knicks have been playing great defense. And if you look at DiVincenzo as a 1-for-1 replacement for Obi, like I still think that's a win for the Knicks, right? Because as good as Obi is playing, DiVincenzo gives you better. He's a better shooter, much better shooter. He's probably the best shooter on the team. I don't think that's unfair to say. Quickly is a little bit more dynamic off the pull up, but I don't think that's.
He's the best.
Or,
like in terms of like in terms of like the traditional player archetype of shooter. Yes, I agree. DiVincenzo's the best shooter. But yeah, it's fine. Like I cannot fathom being so upset about this stuff still. Like still being upset that, and again, like, dude, like every team has hits and misses. Fucking the Nets gave away. They didn't bring back Bruce Brown. Bruce Brown goes on to be like a exceptionally key player on the Nuggets championship team, right? Like every team has hits and misses. The Lakers the amazing Lakers, they let Austin Reeves walk, and they've spent like most of the or not Austin Reeves. Sorry, wow, that's very racist. Alex Caruso walked, and like they made all kinds of stupid moves, right? They traded Kuzma and all this shit to get Russell Westbrook, and it's like teams make mistakes. Every single team makes it, and every single team will fuck up shit, but you can't assume like, oh well, they fucked this up, so now everything is terrible. Like, no, that's not how it works. Look at the state of the Knicks. The Knicks are 12-7. They're in a good position. They have a deep roster. Is it a little undersized? Sure. Is that manifesting in some way that is some inherent weakness that is fucking them up? I don't think so. Great rebounding team. So, whatever. All right. Stacy, I know that you got to get out of here. So, I guess let the people know they can find you and plug anything you'd like to plug. Also, make your prediction. Are the Knicks going to advance or do they lose?
Stacy Patton 89. My prediction is there's only the one thing for the Knicks to do here, and that's win the whole fucking thing. So yeah, that's my prediction.
Yes, I too will be rooting for the Knicks to win the whole fucking thing, as he says. Yeah, I have nothing to plug. I will plug all the work at the Strickland. Check out the recaps. Everybody's doing really good work. Joe Flynn has recently joined the staff, and he's done a few really nice recaps as well. So definitely check those out. Check out Strictly NFL. Khan and Jeff doing really good work on there. Takes from Obvious Bozos dropped over the weekend, so definitely give that a listen with Drew and Zach. I have nothing to plug personally, so that's all I have. So that is our show for today. I hope everybody other than Scott Perry and DeMar DeRozan have a great week. I hope the Knicks will win tomorrow. How about that? Guaranteeing it. All right. Again, that's our show for today. Hope everybody has a great week, and I will see you on Friday.